Hello and welcome to the Irish NFL Show, brought to you in association with QuinBet. Thank you for everybody, by the way, who's seen the news that we're going on tour in 2026 and has expressed their interest, where there's interest coming in all throughout the week. For anybody who hasn't seen that, IrishNFLShow.com/tours for details as to what we have planned coming in 2026. But 2025 is still very much on the radar. Myself, Shane Brennan and Brian O'Leary are here to talk about a Thursday night matchup, which, if you remember last year, delivered one of the most extraordinary Thursday night games you will ever see. Last year when the Falcons and Bucs played in Thursday night football, Kirk Cousins was throwing for over 500 yards. The Falcons came out with a 36-30 overtime win. And it looked like at that time, both of these teams would be tussling for supremacy in the NFC South. What is staying the same is the quarterback matchup, but it's still going to be Kirk Cousins playing for the Falcons, playing against Baker Mayfield on the Bucs. But the stakes are very, very different here, Brian, because the Falcons are already out of playoff contention. And the Buccaneers, who have already beaten the Falcons this year, really need to get their season, not season back on track, but refined form. They drop one against the Saints at the weekend. They've got two key games coming up against the Carolina Panthers over the next 3 weeks after this game. They really don't want to come up against the Falcons here at Raymond James Stadium and drop a loss against a Falcons team who, over the course of the season, found it very difficult to learn how to win games.
The Falcons would love nothing better, Shane, than to find a way to end the Bucs season. The huge rivalry between both sides, as you touched on there, the always featured are very tight no matter what the circumstances. 60 days to the Super Bowl, 60 days to Super Bowl 60. And at the start of the season, Shane, I had suggested that the Bucs were a sneaky team this year in terms of not necessarily going to the Super Bowl, but making a bit of a run on it during the playoffs, because we all assumed that they would come out the right side of this NFC South. And right now, it's very much, as you said, up in the air. The Panthers are coming fast. There's their same record. They're going to play each other twice. The Bucs have to get this one. Raymond James Stadium on a Thursday night, you would expect the atmosphere to be really good. But we touched on it on Monday. What's really concerning for me with this Bucs home form is when they come up against the weather conditions, adverse conditions, as opposed to who they're actually playing, they struggle. We saw the Patients run all over them. We saw the Saints last week do a number on them. Tyler Shook. You wonder, I haven't looked at the forecast, but if it's not like this kind of easy Florida night, are they going to struggle against a Falcons team that, in their own right, offensively, can do damage? It'd be interesting if they can get Drake London back this week. He's been a big loss for them. Kirk Cousins played quite well for a period last week, but ultimately the Seahawks were too strong and they came with a real dominant second half performance. It's a hard one to call right now.
It really is. Just on that weather point, though, I've been looking at it today. That there's been no rain. Obviously, the really, really slippery ground we saw. Obviously, Charlie Smith probably played a part of him making his kick for the Saints. So that's where people may have seen it. But over the course, if you're actually watching the game at large, the conditions did definitely played its part for slippery grass in Tampa. But it's been dry today on Thursday night. Sorry, today as we're recording this on Wednesday. On Thursday, it's the forecast is no precipitation expected, 21 degrees Celsius, humidity about 50%, and a low wind. So got a nice calm weather for people to be playing December football. So that might give the Buccaneers a bit of a boost here. But I think what has to be interesting, though, is so people are sort of look at what's happened with the Bucs and say, oh, well, if there's somebody missing from the offense that Baker Mayfield is used to attaching himself to, whether it's Mike Evans or Ibuka being out of certain parts of the year, or Irving, we're not quite, he's been in and out over the parts of the year, or even if we're not finding form from Godwin Jr., for instance, then, where's the consistency coming from? Can Baker himself on the offense and the way that they scheme things is, of course, with Liam Cohen last year, it wasn't, as offensive coordinator, it just seemed to click easier. It seemed like they could deal with adversity better. It seemed like the things going against them in terms of injuries or in terms of strength of the opponent, or in terms of even how slippery the weather is or whether they're playing in the wintertime, just didn't knock them back as much as they have been knocked this year. Even in games that they've won, they haven't necessarily looked convincing on offense. And I think this has to be a game here that Baker Mayfield has to take the bull by the horns here. And against the Falcons defense, so let's not forget, as much as the Falcons offense hasn't clicked and the team has messed up a lot of these situations, the Falcons defense has been consistently a strong point over the year, particularly that upfront defense that gets pressure on the quarterback. And I think Baker might find himself running around a lot against that defense. He might be hoping that they might be still banded for playing a very physical Seattle team. But to me, I think this is still going to be a very tricky challenge for the Buccaneers offense to try and make sure that they have rhythm for the game.
Yeah, I think what we've seen over the last year, 2 years or so is, we say quarterback playing above the numbers, and that's what we've seen from Baker Mayfield. Sometimes you look at the numbers and the stats after a game, and they're not eye-opening, but his performance was eye-opening in terms of he's able to take this Bucs team from another level at times and find ways to pull these games out of a hat. We saw some stellar performance earlier on in the season. The Seahawks game on the road where they lost. Actually, I think they won, but it was the nature of the performance. And Booker started off the season on fire, so probably didn't do too much damage to him in terms of the fact that Mike Evans is out for a long time over the course of the season. He came back briefly, got injured again. McMillan, the rookie wide receiver from last year, struggled. There was talk about both of them being activated off IR last Sunday, and they said it was a week too soon. You would imagine if these two can come back tomorrow. We saw some lightning moments from Godwin last weekend. Like, when you put all that together and you look at this Bucs offense, you go, oh my God, they've got so many talented players. And then you got White and you got Bucky Irving. Their run game is not what it was last year. It's tailed off. When White was trying to hold it down, when Irving was out during the season, he was really struggling. Irving was probably the bright spot over the past 2 weeks. He's come back and he's scored touchdowns and he's been really effective back in the run game. I think that's what they're going to need. They're going to need this run game to take the pressure off Baker Mayfield, because they can't continuously ask the likes of a rookie wide receiver, Buku, who seems to have, he's not fallen off the cliff, but his numbers have dwindled compared to was earlier on in the season. He's not playing at the level. And what we've seen was he was kind of holding the fort from a wide receiver aspect in terms of doing so much damage, and how impressed he was at the start of the season. It's kind of tailored off now. Now you're looking for other players to step up, and that's maybe why it's a good timing for them to maybe get Mike Evans and get McMillan back in the team. Godwin comes back. All these players can contribute. It's whether they can put it all together in this particular game. I am thinking the Bucs will find their way. I think the Falcons haven't they done what they've done of old, which is find ways to lose games. Even 2 weeks ago against the Jets, where it looked like they had the Jets dead to right, they still find their way to lose that game. They lose last weekend. They lost some tight games over the season. Strikes me as that kind of game again. Nip and tuck, third quarter, fourth quarter, but ultimately then the Bucs find enough to get over the line. It'd be interesting to see if that is the case.
Yeah, Jets of the South, as they keep being mentioned by our resident Floridian, Kieran Boyle. I also think the Buccaneers will find a way to win this. I think there's a few times when you just look at who has the greater need, and there's a few teams you were starting to see it at the start of December when we're watching now. This is mainly teams playing in colder weather. In fairness, we can already sense that some of the players, especially on defense, will start already mentally packed to go to Cancun, and I fear that's going to be the case for the Falcons defense here. And for that reason, I think the Buccaneers will win. One final one for you, Brian, and I'm throwing this one at you, even though we didn't prepare for this. The news recently come out that Munich has been confirmed to host games in 2026 and 2028. Of course, the Buccaneers played the first ever Munich game. You've had your chance to go to Munich a few times. Munich is the one place in Germany I haven't seen a game. I've been to Frankfurt and Berlin, but I imagine this is for NFL International, and in terms of the growth of the game in Germany, this is a good sign.
Great excitement to have this news that it's back in Munich, Shane. Yeah, it's weird. You haven't experienced the Munich piece yet. I think please God, next season you will, and then you'll be questioning when the NFL went to Frankfurt and even went to Berlin. You saw Berlin this year. You've seen Frankfurt. I've seen Frankfurt and Munich, but I've been to both Munich games. So what do we get? We got the Seahawks and the Bucs the first year with Tom Brady, and the Bucs were shocked by the Seahawks. And then last year we saw a very difficult game in the Panthers and the Giants. But taking that away from the equation, Munich as a city is geared up to host NFL games. Everything's in close proximity within the city centre. All the fan events that took place over the course of the 2 years in which I was there, they were all within walkable distance of the city centre. Numerous bars packed out throughout the course of the weekend, hosting events for Patriots fans, Panthers fans, Giants fans, Chiefs fans. Every fan base you can think of who has a connection to Germany with his international rights matter, were hosting events throughout the course of the weekend, which led you to just enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying the spectacle, and then the experience of actually going to the Allianz Arena itself. It's fantastic. Place. For me, it's the only place the NFL should be focusing their attention, but you understand the nature why they have to look at other venues in the city. But it is great news. 2026, 2028. Now the question is, who's coming? Because we want to get some stellar games as well internationally. I think we've had some really good ones this year, including the Germany game. You had a great experience watching the Colts and Falcons go to overtime. We got a game like that in the Allianz next year. We'd be blessed. But merely for me is the standout place in Germany to host the game. So it's great news, and it just leads for more excitement next season.
Yeah, I would highly recommend for anybody to go to a city in Germany when the game is on, even if you don't have tickets for the game, because, like you're saying, the festival of football around there was the same in Berlin when, like, it wasn't just stuff for Colts and Falcons fans as it was the case. There was stuff for Pats fans, Panthers fans, Seahawks fans. The Chiefs had a thing going on. It was amazing how much that felt. Now, I was saying to Craig in the AV Club yesterday that Berlin, what was good, was really, really good, but Munich just looks absolutely great. So that's a fantastic piece of news. All right, anyway, that's enough for that. We will be reconvening. If you're listening to Thursday morning, make sure you watch us live Thursday night across all of our channels as we will be previewing all of the Sunday action. The bye weeks are done. Every team is in action. No matter who you support, your team is going to be playing this week. So there's plenty to look forward to. For now, thank you very much for listening to the Irish NFL Show.